Welcome to the Elevate Media Podcast with your host, Chris Anderson. In this show, Chris and his guests will share their knowledge and experience on how to go from zero to successful entrepreneur. They have built their businesses from scratch and are now ready to give back to those who are just starting. Let's get ready to learn, grow, and elevate our businesses. And now, your host, Chris Anderson.
Welcome back to another recording of the Elevate Media Podcast. I'm Chris Anderson, your host. And whether you're starting out your business or you're a little farther along in your journey, or, maybe you've made it to six figures already, who knows? But we can all scale a little bit farther. And so today, that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about some key factors to scaling your business and how to set up a plan to scale to that next level. And so we brought on Trey Dunavant on the show today to talk about that. He's the CEO and founder of Scale Factor. So, Trey, welcome to the Elevate Media Podcast today.
Chris, thanks so much. Looking forward to the conversation. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what got you into this being your expertise, scaling businesses?
Yeah, it all started, 2008, I guess. I started working with small businesses. At that time, it was products that actually brought me into the space. It was a product business, especially manufacturing is happened to be the vein. But that's what kind of got me in. I started rubbing shoulders with, 600 and something businesses and started to realize small business is pretty awesome. Like, they're doing big things in their own way, right? Even when their world might be pretty small, the impact that they make times, the exponential amounts of them that are in the United States and even globally, you start to realize the impact that it has. And so I think it was that really cued me into, I like this space. I want to serve this space. I think there's so much to this and what makes our nation great. And so without going into deep detail, that's kind of what drew me into it. I enjoyed it. I found it to be a lot of fun work. And so I just stayed in it.
That's awesome. And it is the vein, that of the United States specifically, small businesses, entrepreneurship, creating something from nothing to solve a problem and help people in different ways. And so it's going to be to hear that that's kind of what got you into it and what keeps you into it. So, yeah, I know you've created the 7 key factors to scaling that we're going to touch on today. Probably not in real depth. We'll probably hit on some of those in future episodes on a deeper level, and people can always connect with you and find out more. But let's go through those 7 key factors to scaling to start.
Yeah, absolutely. So in experience, myself, I've got a co-founder as well, Josh Hodson-Pillow. The two of us, as we worked with more and more businesses, found that there were critical factors, right? We could look at a business in all different industries, whether it be product or service, whatever it was, and we started to notice that there were keys to their success. You could have even 2 together, right? I could see 2 people in the same industry, roughly the same business type. One scales dramatically and the other one doesn't. Why? Is it brilliant leadership? Is it, what is it? And so we started to uncover these 7. So yeah, we actually packaged them, and it wasn't hard to do. It actually flowed very naturally. But we pulled them into factors. So we use factor as an acronym, FACTORS. So really quick overview. Number 1 is find your buyer, right? F is find your buyer. If you cannot find buyers, you cannot scale. Number 2 is amplify your brand. Once you do know your buyer and you go to find more of those buyers, everything about your business needs to speak to those individuals, right? And so amplifying your brand in the right way, in the right fashion, using the right words to that audience is important. Number 3 is, or the third one is create new revenue. So many times we have to ensure that our current product matrix or service matrix aligns again to that buyer if we're going to scale. T is team alignment, right? No business is going to, I've heard often said that if your vision doesn't include others, it's not big enough, right? So we're always going to have an element of team there. How do we align them again with our customers, with our products, and ultimately the service we offer or the solution we offer? After T, you have O, operationalize your sales, right? We're not going to go very far if we can't operationalize our sales and scale our sales specifically. Too many times in small business America, that can happen, right? Our leader or owner, founder tends to be at the center of some of that, and it doesn't scale very well when that's the case. R is repeat the sales motion. We have to have a repeatable end-to-end sales motion for any business to succeed. And then the last one is scaling through investments. Out of all the kind of making these into factors. S is a little bit of a stretch, but scaling through investment is key. We get to the end of a year, we have some profits. What do we do with those? Do we put them into something that we know what the result is, i.e., a new vehicle for our business, or a second home, or a boat, or, we can put our money into things that we know are exactly what we're going to get in return. But we can also have confidence with strategy to say, if I put this same resource in over here to this area of my business, it'll yield X return, or we believe it will yield X return because of these factors of this data. So giving business owners more confidence in how to re-leverage their income into the business to grow.
Awesome. Yeah, I think those are all really, really good ones and broken down really well. One I'd like to probably hit on a little bit more today is amplify your brand.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear more about that. What does that look like from your perspective of amplifying brands?
Yeah. Really simply, when we go through the process of finding our buyer, one of the things we do a lot of deep work on is knowing our buyer. Do we actually know our buyer? It was earlier this year. I was with a founder of a company. They've raised over $100 million in capital. Still don't know who their ICP is. They don't have a definite view of who their buyer is. It's very broad. So it could be anyone, but that's not really an answer, right? Who is it? I was also just yesterday in an all-day strategy session with a marketing company, marketing agency. They didn't have their ICP defined. And so I think too many times we don't know who that is. So I think before we can even get to amplifying the brand, we really have to know and understand who our buyer is. Not who our buyer is today either, right? Some of the businesses we work with, many of them have been around, right? They have a tenure. It's not a product market fit question. It's, we have a great business. This is who we have been serving. So the question becomes, is that the person that's going to get us to the next level, right? Or where we're trying to grow our business to? And so sometimes it's this buyer has served us to this point. It's not the buyer that's going to get us to the next point. And so once we determine that, amplification of the brand is where we get into kind of it's equal parts psychology and execution, right? It's like, okay, if this is our buyer, in what ways do they want to be spoken to, right? Are they looking to an authority or not? Who influences them? How do they reach out and collect information? Are they, tend to be high fact finder type individuals, or no, they're highly visionary. So they don't need the details. They need the vision. Who is it? And then amplifying your brand in the right spaces, in the right places, and in the right ways. So you can look at everything from, how do we show up in the marketplace? Do our buyers live on social platforms? Is that an area that we should be in broadcasting? Maybe they don't. Maybe even in today's world, they don't spend as much time there. Instead, it's industry events, or it's private clubs or social circles, or whatever it is. But understanding where they are and how they get their information and who influences them currently will really help us to amplify our brand to them in the right way.
You love listening to podcasts, but have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Maybe you want to build a brand, grow your business, or are looking for an excuse to talk about your favorite hobby. Whatever your reason for making a podcast, Buzzsprout is the place to start. Since 2009, Buzzsprout has helped over 300,000 people launch their own podcasts. Buzzsprout walks you step by step through the whole process and will give you powerful tools to start, grow, and monetize your podcast. Ready to get started? Click the link in the show notes to get our free step-by-step guide to starting your podcast today.
Yeah, so basically really understanding who it is that you're serving is important, because then you'll know how to amplify correctly, where to go, and by what means.
Right. And then, there's always that, there's testing in there, right? It's like, hey, we believe this is true. This is our hypothesis. Let's test it, right? So there's always going to be testing and iteration. Typically, though, by understanding our buyers a lot better, knowing who our buyers truly are, it takes the guesswork out of the amplification. It's like, wow, we know where they spend time. We know who influences them. We need to show up in these ways to get attention.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I think that's important, because as we're scaling, the better we can do that, I think the less I don't want to say waste, but the less time, energy, resources get used incorrectly or poorly, I guess, going forward, because we know, we have a better idea of who we're serving and where they are. That way we can really be efficient in that, and you can spend more and get a better return on that investment.
That's it. Yep. It's all about the efficiency and the ROI, I think. That's what it boils down to, right? If we can do it in the right way, we're going to receive so much more ROI for our investment and therefore be more effective. We can do more of it, right? We can double down on what works and get a better return.
Absolutely. So, I guess that's something to think about. If they're not spending time on social media, whatever market that might be, what are some good strategies? Like if they're spending time at clubs or events, what are good ways that you recommend or have seen work to get in front of those audiences?
Yeah, it looks different for everyone for sure. But I think with some, let's say it's not social media, and there's plenty of companies that, again, aren't going to be, their main growth mechanism isn't on social. It may be through a distributor, right? I think of like some in the manufacturing space or certain elements, certain types of businesses. It could be through someone else, a distribution channel. It could be through a partner. It could be through, some kind of affiliate. So all those become really important when you look at, okay, if this person isn't engaged on social, if my buyer isn't engaged on social, if they're not showing up in kind of some of what I would call the typical ways, it forces us to be a little more creative, which is fun. But there's always, I hesitate to use the word angle because it makes it seem like negative, but there's always a solution for saying, if this is our buyer and we're confident in the solution we offer them, how do we genuinely show up in that space? That's one thing that I'll put a caveat or asterisk next to is like everything we do should absolutely be genuine in our approach and how we do things. But what I've found is they are being influenced by someone and certainly in spaces. And it's discovering what those are. And sometimes it's as easy as asking, right? If you have, again, a client that you're currently serving and you want more of them, man, if they're a fan of what you do, you solve problems for them, you are a solution person for them, go to them and ask, hey, we're providing this and this for you. We're obviously providing massive value in these areas. Where do you get your information? Where do you show up? How, what spaces are you running in? Where do you collect your information? Who impacts you? Like, who do you look up to? Who do you listen to? Like all those questions become, man, let me find out from this person what they're doing because I want more of them. And so if you do have at least one key client and you're saying, man, my business would look totally different if I had 100 of these, Jameses over here, go talk to James, figure out what it is, right? Go talk to Nita and say, Nita, where do you hang out? Where do you get your information? And more than likely, they're an open book. They're willing to share, right? Oh man, if you could help others like me, they're going to love it. Here's what I would try. Here's what I would do. Or this is where I hang out. Or this, whatever it is.
Yeah. And I think you just got to ask, right? That's the thing. A lot of time we just don't, for whatever reason. Psychology says we just won't ask. And so I think if we can do that, you get a lot of answers a lot easier.
Yeah. Ask and you shall receive. I think too many times we sort of want to go it alone or not seem like, I don't know. It can be different posturing. Yeah. I think the more we can just say, hey, I love doing business with you. From what I can see, we do massively valuable things for you. You've told me that a million times. I want more of you. Let's not, this is what it is, right? I want more of relationships with those like yourself. So what does that look like? And the same thing with product creation though, the third factor, create new revenue.
Yep.
One of the key ways that we help some of our clients create revenue is ask those that you're already working for, instead of trying to cast a wider net, go deeper, right? Go to your clients that are your key clients and say, what else could I do for you, right? I'm doing these 3 things and we're massively valuable. What else could we do to serve and solve problems for you? And they're more than willing to share. Again, they're fans of yours. They want to see you win anyway. And so I think that idea of survey in a genuine way, the idea of conversations, feedback, if we're not kind of putting those place markers in throughout our process, I think we're missing out on multiple things. We're missing out on potential new revenue or new product opportunities. We're missing out on the ability to understand our buyer in a way that we can go find.
Yeah. And I think that's again, it just goes to that communication and over delivering as much as you can, but just building those raving fans and then just listening, to what is coming in. Yeah, that's a big one. And having some sort of, method to get that information, whether it be a survey, whether it just be, reach out, having something in place periodically to make sure you're still doing that great job and that they're still happy, and seeing where you can go forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, and I can even speak for myself, I do that really well in some seasons and not as well in others. And so to your point, setting it up as part of your process, it is just in the customer journey. It's pre-baked in there that these are the points at which we ask these questions. And now with technology and AI and all the things, you can even have them pop up, organically at certain stages and be, perfect for the exact setting. There's a lot there, but I think more than anything, put it in your process. Just make it part of your onboarding process, make it part of your service plan, make it part of your sales process, kind of front, middle, or more of a back end. You're going to find value in all those. And I promise you, they want to see you win. They'll be honest, and it'll give you so much opportunity to up-level yourself and your business.
Yeah, for sure. So, as we're going through these factors and working our way through those, is there anything else we can do to like prep for scaling that is kind of like behind the scenes as we're going through these factors, or anything that you maybe see people, mistakes they've made that you're like, you should have done this, or maybe you should have thought about that as you're going along it?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think what I have witnessed is, business owners who have spent the time, maybe even invested a lot of energy and resources into internal operations, which is really key. You've got to be able to, part of scaling is also being able to fulfill, right? It's not all sales and marketing. We know that. But, then maybe they've done that hard work, and then they go straight to like, okay, let's go, turn on the sales engine or add fuel to the fire without really setting up a bulletproof, repeatable sales motion. And I think that's where I see a lot of times they slip is we don't have an end-to-end motion, and therefore every sale looks a little different. We're offering slightly different things. We're doing custom this, custom that, and that doesn't scale, right? Simple scales. And so some of the work, again, I'll reference the strategy session yesterday with a customer. That was a big piece of it, right? They had, I think, 8 offerings that they went to market with, and they would plug them in certain settings and not in others. But it was just, man, what if we could cull these down into 3 and they're more robust? But man, if we just had 3 that we knew anyone that is our ideal client would get value from all 3. And so no matter where they land, we know they're going to be valuable and we can serve them well. And so I think having an end-to-end sales process that doesn't rely on any single individual or even 2 or 3 individuals. Because ultimately what I've seen is, again, the founder, the owner, the person that has the most context has typically been there, obviously the longest, and has so much in here, struggles to get it out. It's just, it feels awkward. It's hard. But we've actually created a process to help them do that. To say, okay, from the very initial interaction, what are the stories you tell? What is the context you use? What examples do you give? When there's objections or, hey, what about this? What do you lean on? What data do you reach for? Like, how do you communicate? All these things, I think for so many founders just flow. They don't even think about it. It just happens. And the problem is they don't know what to, like, how do I train somebody? I could hire somebody tomorrow. I can paint the vision. They'll be totally sold, but we'll realize within 3 weeks that I don't know how to sell this for you, right? I have to keep pulling you in to either help me support the deal or to close the deal or to be there in the final hour or to make the introduction, or they're too key in that. And so I'm probably sharing too much, but I think that the repeatable sales process motion needs to be there for any business to truly scale.
Yeah. And that's a good point. Like having that those processes and systems in place, and sales and majority of other things within the business, because if something happened, like could someone come in and walk through or be led through simply through the actions or the steps in business that needed to happen on a day-to-day basis? Like, yep. and I know even on we definitely can improve in those areas as well as we scale. Yeah, they're all things to work on. So they're not be perfect right away, but definitely something to think about as you're scaling is, okay, if I wasn't in this position or if this person wasn't here and someone came in, is there something walking us through or walking that new person step for step what they need to do? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to benefit yourself and also stress test it, right? Did the 2-week vacation or the 3-week vacation and don't check in at all with the business. the first little while will be extremely stressful. And then hopefully you'll break through the kind of veil and you'll have a great vacation. But in the meantime, you can stress test what worked and what didn't, find out where the gaps are. But I think really it's equal parts trust. I think there's equal parts. So many business owners are like, no one sells like I sell. And I would agree with that statement. No one is going to sell like you sell. My argument or my kind of challenge would be, I believe there's someone out there that can sell more effectively than you, even as a founder. And it's a matter of you supporting them through the systems, the context, the information, resources, and then letting them do them. Because most founders inherently aren't exceptional salespeople by nature. It's not that they have some great sales career before it. Typically, they just know their craft, right? They've mastered their craft, and so helping them understand, if you support and build a system and process in the right way, someone else can do it better than you, which is awesome, right? I think that's what ultimately they want. Sometimes it's just a little hard to get there.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's always going to be a growth edge,
Yeah, I mean, because it's like, I knew starting out, like I had to scale, expand, bring people on to do things, because I to get to where I wanted, I knew I couldn't do it all, fulfill it all, everything. And I knew some of those weren't my strengths anyways. And so, gotten to the point where we have, a handful of contractors helping us in different facets, but it's like, still sometimes I'm like, oof, like still that nervous energy kind of feeling. And I'm like, no, it's be all right. Like we get through this, especially if you bring a new one on. And but yeah, eventually critical. You have to. Yeah.
It's really critical. And I think, even zooming out just a little bit, right? We have our sales process, but where does the sales process fit in the customer journey? That can also be a really helpful exercise to go through, is like, is there a customer journey built? Is there even a brand story, right? Like, it sounds crazy, but write that out as a story. Like, pick your avatar, give them a name, and what does their relationship with us look like from the first time they see an ad, have a conversation, connect with us over dinner, hear about us through our distributor, whatever it is. From that moment forward, what does their journey look like? Because I think that can give good context to, again, how a founder or CEO or owner may do things, right? Is they typically have some of those kind of fringe contexts that are really helpful in the sales process.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a beneficial thing, is to get it all written out and see it and be like, oh, wait, there's a gap here. Like, or like, maybe they slowing the process down too much or whatever. But I'm curious, Trey, through your journey, building Scale Factor, are there any moments that stick out in your mind, like early on, that like, man, I wish I would have done that different, or I wish I wouldn't have done something like that, that maybe was not a mistake, but like a learning lesson or an obstacle that you had to figure out how to get out of or around?
Yeah, there is one actually. So when we started Scale Factor, we wanted it to be, so there's kind of a pendulum in my mind. One way is like a personality brand, right? And another way is like an actual standalone product. So we kind of got product and then person in my mind. Well, I've seen a lot of personality brands that scale quickly on the front end, but it typically causes some challenges down the road. And then you've got products, which are great, but typically take longer to get going. Depending, this is obviously very, very broad, broad brush approach here. But I think we centered too much actually in the product side of things because we're so committed to having, our factors, our system and our process be able to stand on its own, right? And in a lot of ways it does. But I think one thing I learned early on is there's a middle ground too, where we can introduce it in the early stages of business, introduce it through a personality, introduce it through myself or Josh, and use some of that credibility to introduce and uphold and support the product that's ultimately going to stand beyond us. And so that would be something that I learned, with the startup of Scale Factor and what that looked like. And I think it was after seeing, again, I've had some experiences in my past where the brand centered on a individual, even when it comes down to selling it, right? That key man discount typically is very detrimental to valuation and your ability to sell a business if it's connected to an individual. And so it was just a good reminder. We have now our scaling plan workbook and a process. It's over 640 points that someone could go through without me at all, right? Or without Josh, without anyone in our company at all, they could go through that and build a scaling plan, which is awesome. And I think there's so much value because we were so centered on that idea. There's just a middle ground. I think there's a, moderation in all things. There's a middle ground there that.
Sure. So you got to the middle ground. Are you the one who shows the face more, or?
Well, Josh and I both are still, we're very connected people. We enjoy being out, building relationships. And so if there's another probably like Achilles heel, it's that we enjoy those elements so much, know. But yeah, for a while we kind of went into the lab and didn't pull our heads out until we had this thing built, and we really were committed to it standing on its own, right? No names attached to it. Does this work as a product? Because again, long term, we wanted there to be a product that could go to market and be valued for the product that it is, and then sell accordingly.
Yeah. And that's smart, kind of planning with the end in mind kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes people don't think about that.
Yeah, totally. That's been something that has been a takeaway that I've always referred to, the Stephen Covey, start with the end in mind. I think it's a very helpful thing. It's there again, it's a balance though, it's like start with the end in mind, but we're also going to make a lot of adjustments along the way. I think, perfection is kills us at times. Right. And we have to realize that even, I was recently reading an article. This is a little bit of a sidebar rabbit hole, but I think it'll be valuable, is, the idea of even Elon Musk, and when he looked at space exploration, it wasn't about getting it down to the finite measurement of how do we get from the surface of the Earth to wherever we need to go in lunar orbit and back perfectly. Like we have to figure it all out right now. His thing was, I can disrupt this industry a little bit by saying we don't have to have it perfect off a launch pad. That's why we have our booster rockets to adjust, right? Is we can launch 2 degrees off and we'll correct over time. Same thing. That's why he's able to land these things on a floating device in the ocean. Is like, my goodness, if you're looking at something that's unstable, that's probably one of the most unstable things you could do, right? I mean, waves are always going to be pitching it around. The deck angle is going to be, moving around all the time. It's not a worry. We're not trying to aim from the moon or from outer space right down to that pad with perfection. No, we're going to come down as we get closer, making adjustments, and we're going to fine tune it all the way down to the moment we touch down. And so same in business, right? We need to start with the end in mind. We do need to know what planet we're aiming for in this analogy, but at the same time, we're going to make a lot of adjustments along the way. So don't be afraid to launch and adjust with that vision. So.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's a great, story image. And it's kind of like, if you think about climbing a mountain or even hiking, sometimes you know where you're going, you see the mountaintop, you see that peak, or you see your destination, but along the way, even if you've climbed it before, there might be new obstacles, something blocking the path or something happened that you have to get around it and create a new path, and you're still headed the same direction and the same outcome, but it just looks maybe different.
Yeah.
So I think this been good. I think, everyone scaling is, like you said earlier, is keeping things simple and duplicatable, basically. Like, can it be done by someone else in a simple way? Because I think we overcomplicate so much.
Yeah.
I know I do, at least. When I got so much stuff running through my head. It's like, just keep it simple, and that's what's gonna be like. That's gonna be the easiest thing to grow and to build.
Yeah.
Because we look at all these other huge corporations and we're like, well, they have all these different things they offer, and I'm like, yeah, but where did they start?
Mm-hmm.
Billionaires are doing all these different things because they have the means and the time and the resources to focus on, or to have things focused on all those. But they all started with basically focusing on one simple thing.
Yep. And
building it from there. So
it is so crucial to keep that in mind. I mean, I just think, in all areas, we it's kind of a measurement between what's our capacity and then how simple can we make it. And I will say, the older I get, the more I realize the value in that. I do feel like some people are just naturally gifted at simplification. I'm like you, give me something simple and I can make it super complex really easy. And that's not needed, So I'm always encouraging myself, like, how simple can I make this? What can I remove from this scenario to get to the same destination and use way less steps, or, get to the same destination with way less headache? It's like, it's a constant process. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the two biggest things from my perspective, keeping things simple will help you, and doing more of the right actions will get you goals. Because I think a lot of times, even myself included, like, again, I'm not above any of this. Like,
neither am I.
we don't do enough of the right actions. And we're like, man, why are we at that level? It's like, because we're not doing enough. And, sometimes it's like, oh yeah, okay, you're right. Yeah. I just told myself the other day, I was like, dude, you're not doing enough outreach. It's a numbers game. And so those two things, keep it simple and do enough of the right thing, I think can help you, obviously, after you've built out this scale plan, to help you get there.
I learned something from someone one time about like the idea of experimentation, and it's helped me in a lot of areas of life, business included, but even life is like, man, to a degree, everything is an experiment at some point, right? Everything starts as an experiment of sorts. And so I think when you remove the emotion from it, you can, to your point, look at what's working and double down on it. And also just like try to fail as quickly as possible. If this isn't working, awesome. We learned something. We never fail. It's either we win or we learn, right? Hey, we learned that doesn't work. Great. Let's stop doing it and do something else, right? Let's take that time and re-leverage it. So that's a super great point is, I think sometimes emotionally we get too vested and we don't want to say that it doesn't work. So we just double down. It's like having the maturity to say, it's fine. We tried it. It didn't work. I'll go put those same resources into something else. So.
Yeah. And again, if you're listening to this, like it's one day at a time. And
one day at a time.
And man, like don't get discouraged, looking at people in their different chapters because, we're all different and just learn from them, learn from whoever you can. And no matter what level they're at. And again, just keep it simple. Do more of the right things, and that's all you can really do. Like,
and celebrate the wins.
Yes, celebrate the wins is a big one because at the end of the day, I mean, it is what it is. Like there's
too oftentimes those of us who have big visions don't stop to celebrate the wins on the way. So, man, celebrate the wins. Enjoy the little wins, the micro wins, and also the big wins. Celebrate them. They'll be fuel for all what's to come.
Yeah. Even if you're in the valleys, man, just keep trying to focus on something good. Even a little thing. We've been plenty of those, and there'll be more to come for sure. It's just part of it. New levels, new devils is what I heard one time. And there's always something that you got to battle or go through. But if you can look at the situation, and be like, hey, well, whatever, that's a good thing. I'm going to focus on that instead. It's going to make it a little bit better. I mean, you could say, well, hey, this really sucks. Like, this just blows. I hate this, but like, that's a good thing right there. I'm going to focus on that. You can accept the bad. It is what it is, but don't get your attention focused on it.
Yeah.
But well, Trey, man, this has been a fun conversation. I've enjoyed this. I love your framework with the 7 factors to scaling. If people want to get in touch with you, find out more about what you do at Scale Factor, where's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, our website is thescalefactor.com. You can certainly go there, check out what we have to offer. One of the things that we get commonly asked is, how scalable is my business? I have a vision to scale this. I want to scale it, but I don't really know how scalable it is. So early on, Josh and I created the scalability assessment. So that's obviously a free resource. If anyone listening wants to just go find out how scalable your business is, you can go to thescalefactor.com and take the assessment. It's pretty simple, pretty direct, but you'll get a full report, a 9-page report on how scalable your business is. What are some of those areas that may rank a little lower that you could focus on to get some momentum? And it just gives you a better sense, I think, of what's possible too, right? Is sometimes we need someone outside of our bubble. It's hard to read the label from the inside of the bottle. And so it's having someone outside that can really speak into, hey, based on these metrics, I think this is the scalability of your business. So yeah, if you want to check that out, it's on the website. Go take a gander, get your 9-page report. If nothing else, you come away with, I think it's 27, 28 steps of things you'll be able to implement right away that could help. So
cool. Yeah, guys, definitely get connected with Trey, check that out. And continue to put these little things into play so you can scale and, continue to grow. So Trey, again, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, enjoyed it, Chris. Enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you for listening to the Elevate Media Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. See you in the next episode.